Show. This is our weekly space for your legal queries. Property expert Vinay Singh joins us from Mumbai. Vinay, welcome to the Property Show. We want to talk to you about inheritance laws with respect to immovable properties today. What are the rights of legal heirs in an ancestral or any other self-acquired property? Vinay, we have a viewer who sent us this question. Let's just go through that. Srinivas Rao wrote us this email. He says his father's self-made property was registered jointly with his brother. The father had registered his will and had granted this property to his wife, that is the caller's mother, and the brother. 5 years after the mother's demise, the property was to be sold by the brother and the share to be distributed among the children. Now the brother has transferred this property in his name by producing a letter from the mother before her demise. Now he is refusing to consult the rest of the family for the sale that has to happen once that 5-year period expires. The brother states that he is now the sole authority under the will to execute a sale deed. Now the caller wants to know, Srinivas Rao wants to know, how do we protect our rights and ensure that his brother involves us in the sale of property? Vinay, in such a situation, what does the law say?
Well, the first thing that you must understand is that since the property is registered in two names, the father and the son also has a share. So now what remains to be seen is what are their shares. If nothing is mentioned in the original agreement, the assumption would be that each has a 50-50% share. Now, if we go with that assumption, let's say the father has 50% share, it is that share which will devolve upon the children. It appears that the father has given a kind of a life interest to the mother by saying that till she is alive, the property will be held by her and thereafter it is to be distributed. So, I understand that this particular son has the right and he has 5 years to dispose of the property. But yes, the others are at risk. Will he do it and will he do it properly and so on and so forth. So, my advice to them would be that they should go to court and there is a will in existence. So, ask for a probate of the will. Once you get the probate done, the rights of each one of these heirs will get crystallized, number one. Secondly, you could ask the court that you please appoint somebody as a commissioner who can oversee the sale of this transaction and the distribution of the shares to the respective heirs. So, these two things may take a little time and a little expense, but I am sure that will help a lot in ensuring that things are done in the proper manner and everything that is done is above board. That would be my recommendation.
Okay. Vinay, there are two kinds of property. One is a self-acquired property, one is a family ancestral property. In both these cases, how does inheritance work?
Well, if you look at, we are specifically discussing Hindu law. So, if you look at it, ancestral property is defined as something which comes down at least 3 generations. So, in the 4th generation in an undivided manner, then it is considered to be an ancestral property. So, here the thing is that the father had acquired it with his own sources and it is just one step down. So, it will not be classified as an ancestral property. If it comes down to the 4th person, means from the great grandfather, then and only then will it be classified as an ancestral property and there everyone would have a share. So, since this is self-acquired, the father has the right to give to some or to all or to a total stranger, just as he pleases. He can do what he pleases with the property.
Okay. Vinay, in cases where there is a clear will is missing and the property in question is a self-acquired property and not an ancestral property, how does inheritance work? Because there will be so many family members taking a claim to that property.
You have to follow the will and we always advise that you make a will and register it. In this case, that has happened and that's a very good thing. Because what happens is that quite often you will find that a will has vanished after the person dies because it landed in the hands of someone who realized he's not mentioned favorably in the will. So, it's always advisable to go and register the will. This ensures that the will won't disappear overnight, number one. Secondly, usually wills are challenged on the grounds that the person was either insane or there was some form of coercion on him to make the will in this particular manner or in favor of this particular person, or that the signature itself is a forgery and therefore the will itself is invalid. Now, once you go and register it, largely these two objections are can be done away with because the person has gone before the sub-registrar. The sub-registrar has examined the person. He would have asked him, do you understand what you are signing? So if all this is on record, then those kind of objections of insanity or of coercion or undue influence and forgery are largely obviated. It's not a 100% foolproof thing, but I would say that it's at least 95% foolproof. So that is something that one must do. And thereafter, the will has to be followed in these cities. As I said, probate is mandatory in 4 cities, Mumbai, Chennai, Calcutta and Delhi. But due to the large cost and the time involved, a lot of people do not go for it. If that could be simplified, then I'm sure many more people would make wills, many more people would go and get the proper probate done. So today that there is a lacuna there because of the cost and the delay.
Okay. Vinay, one last question. In many markets like in Delhi, the nature of many properties is leasehold, and if the owner passes away without getting it transferred into a freehold property, how does inheritance work there?
Well, if the person does have rights like leasehold rights, he can will those away, or during his lifetime also he can create a lease if the original lease deed permits him. He can create a sublease. So that is something that everyone would have to look at. See, the difficulty in India is that we have a lot of superstition attached to making a will. A number of educated people would tell you that, oh, if I make a will, I may pass away tomorrow. That's the kind of thought process people have. Or they are very optimistic that their children would not fight over the property. But the reality is very different. There are misunderstandings between the children once the patriarch or the mother passes away, and it does create a lot of angst which is really not required. Secondly, you want the property to go in a particular manner to a particular person, so you should plan for it. Why leave a situation where people are creating, your own children are fighting amongst themselves over misunderstandings? So I think a little bit of planning, and you should review it. You make a will, maybe after a year or two, if circumstances have changed, you want to realign the wills or realign what you want to give to whom, you can definitely do that. But it requires planning, and it must be done as a proper process, not something which is just a knee-jerk reaction. One fine morning you woke up and said, oh, let me make a will. The other thing is, a lot of people say that I'll make a will when I'm 60 or I'll make a will when I'm 70. I don't need to do it when I'm 50. That's also not true. I mean, unfortunately, life and death is not in our hands. There could be an accident, there could be a disease, and you would leave behind a huge mess. So I think the minute you have property which is yours to dispose of, you should make a will regardless of the age. So these are things which people need to be educated about, and they must make it a point to do it as something which is mandatory rather than something which is optional.
Okay, that's property expert Vinay Singh there, stressing the need, the importance of creating a will in your lifetime and planning for the future. Vinay, thank you so much for your time.